Hello friends, it's Cassandra. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. I post videos every month about Christian related things. Some months I do more of a teaching style video, other times it's like this. It's just kind of a little chat, a little convo, get my opinion on something. But yeah, it's like freezing in my apartment, which is why I'm wearing a sweater. It's the middle of summer. I don't know why it's so cold, but I don't know. It rained this morning, but it's still nice out. It's like 75, so I don't know why I'm so cold. But anyway, today we're talking about dating apps and how I feel about them as a Christian. So I've been on dating apps for a while, kind of, since November, so a good few months. I started out on Christian dating apps, so we'll talk about Christian versus secular apps, and I'm also going to talk about each app specifically and just the pros and cons of each. So let's get into it. So the first app I used was Upward. I'm sure you've seen ads for it. It's like everywhere. I used Upward the longest. It has a decent pool of people, but my thing I didn't like about it was that there is not a lot to go off of just based on the profile. There's, you can upload up to 6 pictures or something like that, and there's a little space to say something about you and a little space to say something about your faith, and that's just not a lot to go off of, and a lot of guys will not write a lot either, so that's not really the app's fault. That's more on the guys. But like, if you're watching this and you're like, oh, I want to make a dating profile, how do I be successful? Write a lot. Like, this is your resume. This is you selling yourself. Like, why should I date you? You need to write a lot. Don't just be like, I like to fish. I love Jesus. That tells me nothing. I know nothing about your personality, nothing about what you like other than fishing, which I could have gathered from the picture of you with the fish. Like, tell me something I don't know. Anyway, that's a problem on pretty much every dating app, but I especially had a hard time with it on Upward just because there's so little to go off of if they don't write anything in their bio. It is a swiping format, so kind of like Tinder in that aspect. Swipe right, swipe left. You do get to see if people super like you, but you don't get to see if they just regular like you before you swipe on them. I did all of these apps for free, by the way. I didn't pay for any of the paid features. Because I'm not that invested. But if you are, no judgment here. Good for you. I hope it works out and that money is worth it. What else do I want to say about Upward? So of the two guys I dated off of dating apps, they were both from Upward. I will say, just because it's a Christian app doesn't mean that you have great men of God on there. One guy I dated, we went on a date or two, and then he was like, I've decided to rededicate my life to Christ. And I was like, oh, that's like really great, but I kind of figured you already were dedicated to Christ if you were on a Christian app. So that was kind of like a wake-up call to me that, like, just because they're on a Christian app does not mean they're a Christian. So it's still important to have those conversations of, like, what does your faith mean to you? How often do you go to church? Just asking those bigger questions is still important, even though it's a Christian app. That felt a little redundant, but oh well. Another Christian app I used is called United Young. I liked this app. They ask really good questions, really good prompts to get to know someone's faith side. You don't get to see a lot of their, like, hobbies and interests, but you do get to learn a lot about their faith. So I feel like there's a little bit more genuine Christians on there. But I had, I think, one match on that app, and then he ghosted me after like 2 exchanges of conversation. So I didn't have a lot of luck on that app. There's also not a ton of people on there because it's a newer app. So I would just say go ahead and give it a shot. See, what it's like in your area. But it is a smaller pool of people. But they're probably more Christian. But still be careful. Still ask those questions, United Young is not a swipey swipe. It's like Hinge, where you see the whole profile and then you like a specific aspect of the profile and you can leave a comment or something to help start that conversation. I really liked the idea of this app. It just didn't work out for me. Then as I kind of exhausted the Upward and United Young dating pool, I moved on to Hinge. And Hinge is, like I said, similar to United Young. You look through the profile, you like a specific part of it instead of just liking the profile in general. Here you can set like Christian. I'm looking for Christian people, and that is a deal breaker for me. So you only get shown Christian profiles. But again, just because they say they're Christian does not mean they're Christian or they care about God. But 2 of them, as soon as I was like, hey, tell me about your faith, they were like, oh, well, it's not really a part of my life. I just like grew up Christian. And I was like, oh, well, I'm looking for someone who's dedicated to their faith. So bye. Essentially is how that went. Much more worldly people on there. So that was also just not a very positive experience because I'm looking at all these people who say they're Christians and then they're like smoking in their pictures up there, or they have pictures where they're posing with their middle finger up, and you're just like, this is not representing Christ. And like, why are we doing this and saying we're Christians? I don't get it, and it was kind of defeating, honestly. That was Hinge. I did meet one guy on there who seemed like a really great Christian, seemed like genuine about his faith, but I just stopped feeling good. I asked God for clarity and stuff, and just stopped feeling like dating is something I'm supposed to be pursuing right now. So I had to end things with him, but he seemed like a good guy. So they're not all terrible, but it was a lot less hopeful of a dating platform for me. The last one I tried was Bumble. I was on there for only a few days before I felt like God was like, this is a time for you to be single. And so I can't say much about Bumble. I'm trying to remember how Bumble is set up. I think it's swiping. I'm sure you can easily find out if it's swiping or not, but I think it is. Bumble has pretty good options of getting to know people as far as prompts go. Hinge has prompts, so like conversation starters and stuff like that. Bumble has those as an option, but you're not required to use them. So it varies from profile to profile of how much information you'll get on a person. Here, when I asked people to tell me about their faith, I just got straight up ghosted. Like, there was no response. They just hit unmatch. They did not want a Christian girl, even though in their profile they said they were Christian. So I don't, whatever. So those are the Christian apps not Christian apps. Those are the dating apps I used and kind of how I feel about them, my like very, very brief review of them. Something I would say if you are online dating is just to be you kind of have to have tough skin because you're going to get ghosted a lot, probably. I will tell you right now that I never had a guy say, I'm no longer interested and I just don't think this is going to work out. If I didn't say those words myself, I got ghosted. So it's like rude and shouldn't be the norm, but it is the norm. So be prepared to be ghosted, I would say. What else? Be ready to bring up those big questions as you're getting to know people. Just say, hey, I saw you're a Christian on your profile. Can you tell me a little bit about your faith and what it means to you? They will let you know right away if they're someone worth pursuing or not based on their reaction to that question. And it might make your job easier if they just ghost. You'll be like, okay, not the one for me. Or they'll let you know, and then you know how to proceed from there. But be really upfront if that's something you're looking for. Don't spend days in small talk trying to get to know someone and then find out after you've invested all this time and energy, oh, they're not even actually a Christian. Just because their profile says they're a Christian doesn't mean they are. So do some digging yourself. Interview the other person, like ask intentional questions. That's the other thing, is that guys were like really impressed with me, and they let me know that when I was like answering their questions with full sentences and asking questions back. They were like, wow, you're so intentional, and like it's so great that you're engaging in the conversation. And I'm like, is the bar really that low? Like, that's so sad. That like, why are you on these apps if you're not intentionally trying to get to know people and, you know, date? But that's just, I don't know, the reality where we're at, what's going on. I don't know. So what I'm trying to say is, if you put forth effort, that will show a lot of your character already, and it will impress guys. But don't let the fact that someone is impressing you or you're impressing them blind you from the fact of whether or not you actually have things in common. There were a couple of guys that I talked to for not a ton longer, only like a day or so longer than I needed to, just because I was like, well, we're actually engaging in conversation, and like they complimented me about this. And so I just feel like maybe I should still talk to them, even though I knew we have nothing in common. We don't have the same goals for our future. Like, this isn't going to work out, and I just need to end it. The other thing I would say is be ready to like dismiss a lot of people, and actually dismiss them. Say, I'm no longer interested. Thank you for your time. And like, it was nice to get to meet you. Bye. It doesn't have to be a long explanation, but give them something. Don't just ghost. Be better than that. Rise up, raise the standard, raise the bar. But I don't think online dating is like wrong as a Christian. For some reason that's a thing, like Christians shouldn't online date, and I don't think that is true at all. I think we live in a very online world right now, and if you're having trouble meeting people in real life, you know, it's good to push yourself and to go out into, you know, maybe some new social situations. Go to the church event, try to meet some people. But if you're like me and you're like, I know literally every single person in my church, and there's 5 of us and 4 of them are girls, you know, I feel you. And so you're like, okay, I have to try online dating because there's no other singles pool for me besides going to the bar, and the people that are at the bar are not people I'm interested in building a future with. I totally get you there. So I don't think online dating is wrong or bad or sinful. My goodness. You just have to be ready to stick to your standards, keep your standards high, know what your values are, and don't let people sway you one way or the other. Like, you should be fine. One thing I was worried about, or like people warned me about, was getting unsolicited pictures, if you catch my drift. But a lot of apps nowadays don't let you send photos on the app itself. So that was never an issue for me. I never had to deal with that, because I would get a very good idea of who they were before I gave them my phone number. And so that was never a problem for me, because I was looking for men of character, of high standards and morals, men of God, if you will. And so I never had a problem with that, but I know that's a concern for a lot of people. But if you stay on the apps, they don't let you send photos. So there's that little safety measure for you. Yeah, that was a wink, but I didn't close my eye all the way. I do that a lot in YouTube videos. Not a lot, but in YouTube videos, when I do try to wink, I don't wink all the way. I just squint my eye, and I'm like, I think I actually winked on that one. Anyway, so that's my little take on dating apps and the ones I used, what I thought about them. I will say I'm currently on a dating site. It's not an app yet. I was told in a few months it'll become an app, but it's called Agape, like agape love, but hey, like, hey, we matched. Anyway, it's a pretty new dating site. So again, there's a pretty small pool of people, but they're more genuine Christian people. So go ahead and try it out. That's where I'm at right now. It's really cool, actually, because they have like dating courses and single mixer events. So that's cool that it is an intentional site through and through. There's actually a whole like statement of belief where you get to see the doctrine of like, these are what we believe as Christians, and like you should only join this site if you believe these core tenets of Christianity. And I mean, I'm sure not everyone reads that, but I just love that the site creator Beck was that intentional when she made the site, that like we have these core Christian values and like this is what people here believe. So this is not sponsored by Agape at all. This is just the last dating app I'm on. I've deleted all my other accounts because I do feel like God is kind of calling me to a time of singleness. But when Agape reached out to me and they were like, "Hey, heard your story. We would love to see you on our app," I said, maybe this is a sign. So I joined. But yeah, that's the last thing I'm on. So let me know if you're on any dating apps. Let me know what your experience was. Hopefully it was mostly positive. I would say my experience was very neutral. It was very neutral. Yeah, nothing like bad. There was one guy I matched with, and it turned out he was like a white supremacist, and I didn't find out till we talked on the phone to each other, and I was on the phone and I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta get out of here. I don't even know what to do. I was like so overwhelmed. He was so intense. It was a lot for me. So you never know who you're gonna meet. But one thing my sister said, that she's like, dating is fun because you just get to go see all the people God made. And I'm like, yeah, you do. So anyway, I keep rambling on. I hope this was helpful, encouraging. If you've been thinking about going on a dating app, I say go for it. Give it a try. It's definitely not for everyone, but give it a shot. You never know what's going to happen. People find love on dating apps. Maybe it could be you. But that's all I have to say today. So I'll see you next month. And in the meantime, remember you're loved. Bye.